Well, hello, everybody. We are live on Facebook, and I am here with Julia Kelleher, who is one of our upcoming Spring Image Competition judges. And if you don't know Julia, there are many, many wonderful things I can say about her, and I'd probably take the whole afternoon, but I'll try to summarize it. She owns Jewel Images, which is a luxury full-service studio in Bend, Oregon. She holds multiple PPA degrees, has won multiple awards, including the Diamond Photographer of the Year twice. She is a Nikon ambassador, and I've learned she is the only Nikon Nikon ambassador, newborn photographer that Nikon sponsors,
Yes.
which is incredible. And of course, she gives workshops and education all around the world and virtually, hosts a podcast. She basically does everything and is an industry leader in photography. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just truly an honor to be here, hon. It's been fun chatting so far. I can't wait to do more.
It is. I am so honored. So how are you doing? How is it in Bend, Oregon, the
Good. I'm
land
not
of the
bad.
mountains and the rivers and the outdoor enthusiast dream?
It is it is a pretty great place to live. I'm pretty lucky that I get to live in a mountain community. It's actually going really well here. I know we talked about, COVID
Mm-hmm.
conditions earlier, but I'm in a smaller town, so things have improved a lot. And I recently decided in January to rip the Band-Aid off and literally double my prices. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
busier than ever. Like I'm fully booked for
Amazing.
April and May and now booking into June. And it's a little crazy. They always say that happens. Like when you decide to go, true over the top luxury and you do it, people like want you even more. And I'm like, what happened? Like it's such an honor. It's a true blessing. So it's been going good. I've been pleased and great, just more than anything, grateful because I know a lot of people are still not working and struggling with lockdowns and things. And so my heart goes out to those folks because it's just different everywhere. But thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
It's going really well. Thank you.
Good. And are you doing speaking engagements virtually or in person at this time? Or has that come
Virtually,
to a hold?
virtually for the most part. I'm
Yes.
excited because I will be at WPPI this summer. They moved it to August, so I'll be judging and speaking at WPPI, which is always exciting. And then I'm hosting a mastermind retreat here in my studio. Vaccines have been really amped up in my area, so they just today opened it up to everyone 16 and older. So
Oh,
in June,
incredible.
we're doing a big retreat for my my mastermind. So my mentorship students are all coming in for. There's like 40 or 50 of us who are going to come and do some fun things in June. So a little bit of in person, but mainly online stuff for now, which I think is pretty typical. And honestly, it doesn't hurt me at all because I get to stay home. It's like less travel, and that's good. So
That's wonderful. And for those of you interested, Julia has her education website, which is jewel-education.com. And her
mhm.
photography website is jewel-images.com. You can find all
Most
the
of it
info
is on
there.
Jewel Dash Images, so that's the
Images?
best.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
images. Yeah, I'm kind of phasing out education. I probably didn't put that down, but I just decided to do that about a month ago. So
Okay.
everything's going to be in one place, which just makes it
Okay.
easier.
So jewel-images.com, and you can
Yeah.
find all the links to everything that way. And I want to ask one more question before we get into all the
Yeah.
things that we're here for. I noticed that you started building your dream home. When you go to your website, I think there's like a little blurb about finding the property, and this was the place you're going to retire eventually, and it was going to be a 4-year project. So have the 4 years been up? Are you in?
Shoemaker whose kids have no shoes, right? Yeah. No, we're living in it.
Okay.
And it was actually, I did a huge photo shoot with it and it was featured in the Western Home Journal magazine
Oh my.
this spring issue. So that's been kind of fun. I don't know. Do you want to
Ooh.
see pictures of it? I'm very proud.
Yes. Is that
Hey,
online? Is it a print journal or an online as well?
it is actually only I think it's online. You know what? Maybe let's look for that. Hang on one second. Let me
Okay.
share screen and see if I can Western Home Journal.
Wow.
Yeah, let's see
Oh
here.
my goodness.
This is it right here. So this is my library and office.
Holy moly.
And
Wow.
it's a feature on my husband's construction company. So yeah, this is
Goodness.
my house and my kitchen. It's been very exciting to
It
build.
is very
There's
Joanna
Oliver.
Gaines.
Yes, Studio McGee, Joanna Gaines. It's a farmhouse, and then of course my work's on the walls.
Is your
Um,
studio a part of this property as
it
well, or is
will
that
be.
separate?
No, I'm sitting in my studio now, and I'm actually
Hmm.
in a retail complex in
Okay.
Bend, in downtown Bend. I'm kind of in a historic building, but my lease is up in about a year, and I pay what, like 3,000 a month in rent. Like, it's expensive, and it's
Hmm.
time to pay that to myself as a mortgage rather
Hmm.
than make
Hmm.
somebody else's dream come true. So we're actually in the process of design right now and building. We'll build a shop and a studio on our property. We have 10 acres.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, so that's
That's
Oliver,
amazing.
our little puppy. He's a sweetheart. And this is like the bonus room and stuff. So yeah, it's been a really fun project, and it's been 3 years in the making. The property itself, it took us probably 5 years to find property.
Hmm.
And of course, at the time, we really stretched to get into this piece of property. And since doing so, the economy in Bend has exploded. My husband's company has exploded. My company's exploded. Just
Yes.
like I said, we're super grateful. And honestly,
Incredible.
we don't really deserve it, but
Of
I'll take
course
it,
you
right?
do.
We
You
worked
take
really
what life
hard.
brings you. Yes. Well,
Yeah, but
congratulations.
thank you. It's a product of working our tails off and some luck happening along the way too. So
Hmm.
thank you. It's been fun.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So let's get into image competitions first. So, why do you feel our members should enter into competitions? Because I know you feel passionately about that.
Oh, very much so. First of all, it is the single fastest way to improve your work. I mean, it's just when I started competing, my work exploded in quality within just a few years. Why is that? Well,
Hmm.
because competition teaches you how to see. So, and what do I mean by that, Julia? Well, when you take an image, you're looking at, when you first start out, you're looking at maybe just the subject or their expression or the way they're posed. Well, once you start competing, then you start seeing the light nuances, the shadow nuances, the color harmony nuances, the composition nuances. And you really become very discerning with the way your eye sees something in a frame. And that empowers you to do that with your client work in camera, which just makes things 10 times easier. I mean, you know how it is. Like,
Hmm.
you shoot an image and you do it wrong, there's only so much you can fix in
Hmm.
Photoshop. you know, they're like, if it's not composed right, you can try to crop it. But again, there's only so much you can do. Whereas if you are trained to see it, then you will shoot it in camera. Your work exponentially improves with your clients as well as in your fine art. And it's a really positive and empowering way to put yourself out there, as scary as it is. I know it's scary, but doing so forces you to, put your
Hmm.
big girl panties on
Yes.
and actually you're willing to self-evaluate it's the fastest way to grow. And so for me, the number one thing about competition is it's going to make you grow, it's going to make your work better, it's going to force you to learn to see. You're going to become a way better photographer simply because you started competing and you started watching other people compete.
That's interesting that you mentioned fine art. I'm going to go off a little bit
Yeah,
here from our prepared questions. And I noticed when you enter competitions, some of your work is not, some of your images that you enter are not the typical images that you would see in your portfolio, like
not at all.
your client work.
Very
So,
different.
yes.
Very
And
different.
why do
Why
you
is
do
that?
that? Yeah, why is that?
Because I have different parts of me, emotionally, artistically, creatively, that I want to explore.
Hmm.
And with my clients, I want to produce a really consistent product that is still my style, that they know they're going to get. Like, when they see
Hmm.
my portfolio, they see my website, they're like, okay, this is what we're going to get from her. I want there to be some trust and authority. To trust the brand, someone has to recognize and go, okay, Julia has this light, fresh white look. This is what we're going to
Hmm.
get when we hire her, etc. With my creative fine artwork, that's where I get to just do whatever the heck I want. Whatever Julia's crazy mind decides to do that day, I can do.
I love
And
that.
that's where I allow myself to take risk. And because obviously if someone's paying me, I want to produce a reliable, consistent,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful product for them. But when I get to do fine art, I can take my own message, my own heart, my own opinions, um, political things going on in the world. One of my images, the trap of postpartum depression, I suffered from PPD really badly myself, and it took me 8 years to make that image. And but when I made it, it was so a deep part of me. But my clients, I don't want my client to buy that. Does that make sense?
It
That's just
does.
me. And that's my emotion, my life experience, my voice as an artist coming through onto the page. And to me, that's where I challenge myself in competition, is to allow that authenticity and vulnerability to come forth and be me. And it's it's scary.
It's
Oh, it's
beautiful.
scary. You have to like separate yourself
Yeah.
and submit your image and be like, okay, if it doesn't do good, that's okay. It's not
Mm-hmm.
me. It's not them. It's not you. It just is. You have to really like wrap your head around the fact that it might not do okay. I really thought that image was going to bomb. I was like, I separated myself emotionally from it during the competition process because I
Yes.
had so much vested emotionally into it.
I tried, I think I know what image you're talking about. And I actually, I remember when I saw it the first time and
I'm like,
I
we should
couldn't find it. I actually looked for it this morning.
we should
I,
probably hang on.
it
Let me
was
just add
very
in.
impactful to me personally. And, I stared at that image and it revisited it a few times, whatever the year that it came out.
It was
Um,
2019. So I
mhm.
have it here. Hang on one second. WPBI. Let's see, where is it? I submitted a lot of images, that final digital images. Okay, hang on here.
And
Here
I
it is.
think when it came across my screen, I was surprised that it was by you. I was like, this is Julia's
It's
work.
definitely
I
a
was, yeah.
different, yeah.
Mhm. It was stunning. It was very impactful, that
Thank
image.
you. Thank you. Okay, I will share it here one second.
I will see if there's anybody comment. Amity says, hi, Julia. Amity Kelly
Hi, Emma
Grant.
T. Hang on one second. I'm getting to my screen here. Share screen. Go. Okay, so it's this one here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's dark. I mean, it's dark,
Yes. And there
dark,
was a whole
depressing image.
explanation. There was a whole explanation behind it. I remember, or maybe it was the little blurb and it, it, it is
Well,
stunning.
it's all shot in
Mm-hmm.
camera. It is not a
Mm-hmm.
composite,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a requirement for certain divisions at WPPI that you don't composite it. So it was shot horizontal. If you twist it in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
I had to mount the table and all the items. All the items are glued to the table, and the picture is hung sideways on the wall. I
That's
built
right.
the set, painted it, stained the costume, did the hair, and the hair was the most challenging part because that's in camera. That is not photoshopped.
What?
Yeah. So I have little tricks of the trade. I can't
Really?
share everything, but yeah. And this woman, Jane Johnson, she's actually a newborn photographer herself, and she had just had a baby, and she was sweet and kind enough to allow me to explore this concept. And the concept is you're trapped, but you love your child, and you
Mm-hmm.
neglect the rest of your life. So that's why the dead
That's it.
flowers, and you put on this face of happiness with a new baby and a sibling and a husband, and but yet things are off kilter inside, and outside you have this perfect picture of your life, and on the
Mm-hmm.
inside you're stuck on the ceiling, and you don't know how to get out of it. So even though there's a rope where someone could pull you down, you can't be pulled down because it's up to you to get out of it. And so there's a
It
lot
was
of feeling with
incredible.
that image. And again, it took me 8 years to make because I kept creating a concept in my head and trying it, it wouldn't work, trying it wouldn't work. And I gave up for a while and got frustrated and was like, no, this isn't going to work. It took me like growing and moving forward and
Mm-hmm.
um, getting over crap, like
Mm-hmm.
growing as a human
Yeah.
being for me to be
Growing
able
and
to do it.
aging. Yes.
Yeah, right. Getting
Yes.
wiser and a little
That's
less.
right.
Yeah, but it's those are some of the most rewarding images though, because they're the ones that truly mean something to you and go deep. So you can in competition create fine art that isn't necessarily client work, and I would highly recommend it. And there's two schools of thought. Some people
I
are like,
love
oh, I
that.
want to do get my degrees or whatever or my awards all with client work, and that's very noble. I couldn't do it. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I had to let out what was in. And a lot of it came, and the ideas came just from looking at lots of other people's work, not photography,
Mm-hmm.
art,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
paintings, digital art. Pinterest is a godsend. And I'm still to this day on Pinterest and I save stuff all the time. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Not because I want to copy the idea, but there's something about the image that struck my fancy that later I'll have a concept. Like I'll be like, okay, I want to study infertility or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do an image on infertility. And then with that thought of infertility in my mind, I go into Pinterest and go, okay, all my saved images, oh, that, really cool cage around her head could be a neat surreal concept about infertility, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be. The image has nothing to do with it, but it's called, I call it stealing like an artist. There's a great book by Austin Kleon called Steal Like an Artist, and there's no real new creative ideas. Everything is always built on upon someone who came before. And so when you see other people's work, certain elements of their work, a color tone, a prop, a a expression, a makeup technique, something will spur you and go, oh, I could use that in this situation. And the trap of postpartum depression came from one of Brooke Shaden's images. She had, do you know who Brooke Shaden is?
Yes, I do.
She has
Yes.
beautiful work, and she had a little girl up on a ceiling holding a cat,
Mm-hmm.
and it was totally different image, but the concept of being on the ceiling was like, oh my God, that's postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And so from there, I took a pose and literally turned it into an entire, hers is bright and yellow and blue, and mine's like dark, rich. It's got a rope around her legs. Like it's a totally different concept. But that came from inspiration from Brooke. So just note that inspiration can come from anywhere. It can come from other art. It can come from a plant, a tree, a building. It can come from anything in your life. And the trick is to be aware and to like constantly look in your surroundings and allow things to inspire you. We're so tunnel vision and daily work and get to school and drop off the kids, and but we don't take time to just be in the moment and go, oh wow, what's in my surroundings that inspires me? Just by simply asking that question will create a whole host of competition images and concepts for you, and spur your creativity.
That is brilliant advice.
Thanks.
That you
Thanks for
don't
saying
need to
that.
stick to your regular, style that you do for your clients,
Not at
and
all.
to look out for art
It's good
outside
to
of what.
explore.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's good
exactly.
to not always do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because it breaks you from your box. Like I
Yes.
have to do creative work that's not client work because that like keeps me from getting stale and old and burn out?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get to know you with your judging hat on now.
Okay.
So in a competition, image competition, what is the first thing that you are drawn to in an image?
Story. Story and
Okay.
emotion.
All right.
If an image has a story and makes me feel something, right there I'm like, it makes me
Mm.
take my breath in.
Yeah,
If
that
if
was
an
like that
image
image
makes
for
me,
me. Hmm.
yeah, if an image makes me feel something, or if there's a story involved. And that's the biggest challenge in creating beautiful competition work is you have four corners and four sides of
Hmm.
a frame. What you put in that frame can tell me an incredible story. So that scores mucho points. Like right off the bat, that's the impact. That contributes to the impact of the image.
Hmm.
So, a lot of judges say, oh, impact is the first thing, but they're like, well, what the heck is impact? What does that mean? It's that
Hmm.
elusive it
Many
factor,
different
right?
things, yes, can
Yeah. Well, and for me,
influence
impact
that.
is emotion and story. If an image like makes me look at it and go, oh my God, there's a story here. And even better, if the story can be interpreted in different ways by different people who are sitting on the panel, then you have a work of art, because the beauty of art is in the viewer's ability to interpret it based on their own experiences, right?
Hmm.
So if we go to the Met in New York or whatever, and we look at a modern piece of art that's abstract or maybe has a story to it or something, you, Jessica, are going to infer different things about it because of your own experience in life versus me. And if we can both, all of us, sit on a panel of judging and look at an image and go, oh, I see this in it. And she's like, well, I see this in it. and I can see her point of view, all of a sudden we're like, wow, this maker has created something that has impact on lots of people, but provides an emotional message regardless of who we are. Kelly Brown did an incredible image last year at WPPI. I mean, it was year, yeah, it was last year. She's known for these beautiful
Yes.
sculptures that she does.
Yes.
Well, and she had two people, like heads, like abstract heads at the top of the circle, and the baby below was being held by the mother. So it was like these two people were encircling the mother and the newborn. And I'm like, oh God, okay, what happened? Is this like grandparents? Is
Mm-hmm.
this maybe the mom didn't make it and they're circling adoption? Is this an adoption story? Turned out it was a same-sex couple surrogate story. Like
Oh,
it could
wow.
be
I haven't seen
inferred
this one. Mm-hmm.
multiple. I scored 100 at WPPI. It's an incredible image. I think it won the newborn category last year. But it's like if you can take something like that, and I take adoption meaning out of it, the judge next door thinks of it as, oh, this is like a surrogacy story or a something like that, and then the other person says, oh, and what had happened is, if I'm I could be mistaken, but what happened was the mother died in an accident, and a gay couple adopted the child. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like this celebration of the
Wow.
fact that the child was, and it was just to be able to infer such different meaning on it based on your own experience is an incredible storytelling venture in such a simple package, and that to me was
Yes.
the power of it, was the simplicity,
Oh, she excels in that kind of minimal
right?
imagery that tells
I love
a
her,
non-minimal story. Like
right?
she's a master,
And she's
definitely.
just a good person too. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So where does composition fall into all this? So do you have
Ooh.
any yeah.
Oh, we could, I love composition.
Well, you
Okay.
don't have to share everything, but just a few
Oh,
tips.
this is like my favorite topic. So let's talk about this image, for example. Okay. So you can see the background here. It's
Yes.
a little bit, can you see that? The background's a little bit gray, but
Yes.
that's fine.
Yep.
Okay. So composition, you have obviously a square, but one of the things that we can do is separate our composition into thirds. And what that creates are PowerPoints on the
Mm-hmm.
image. So if I create a new layer here, just so I don't thrash things, where's my brush tool? Brush tool B. Okay. And let's pick a color that you can see, like orange. Okay. So I have a PowerPoint here, a PowerPoint here, a PowerPoint here, and a PowerPoint here, right? So
Yes.
these are the areas of composition where the eye naturally rests. Okay. In my opinion, this is very subjective, very subjective. Keep that in mind. But I want you to
Mm-hmm.
think through this and then look at other images and tell me what you think. Each point has a meaning. Okay. So if you look at the pages of a book, like for example, this is a page of a book. In the Western world, we read from left to right and top to bottom, right? So we read from the top down to the bottom, correct? So
Yes.
this is where, over here, this is where the story ends, right? This is the bottom of the page.
Yep.
It's the place
Mm-hmm.
of rest. It's like, okay, things are done and complete, right? Ah, peaceful. This is why I shoot all of my babies on the lower right side of the frame, because they're peaceful. It's complete. It's soft. It's done, right? The left
Mm-hmm.
side is a little bit like, oh, if we take, for example, let me just do a new document here, file new. I'm totally going overboard here.
Oh,
If
everyone's
this
gonna love
goes too
this.
long, let me know. If we end up turning into a lesson here, but if this goes too long, let me know.
If you are
So,
willing to share, we're willing to listen and watch.
what did I do? Okay, there we go. B. So again, the PowerPoints here. So we read from left to right. Over here is the place of rest. Over here on the left, if I put something over here, so I'll just draw a circle and then hide my lines, okay? There's all this empty space over here. And you go, wait, what's going to happen? There's uncertainty. It's not finished. We
Yes.
read from left
Mm-hmm.
to right. Whereas if I draw the circle here, you're like, oh yeah, that's the end.
Yep.
Done. Okay. Up here, you're like, okay, we're on that end, but yeah, it's could be a really nice place to be, but it's also like you're kind of hanging in the balance, like, woo. But it also could be an exalted place. Like I said, this is very subjective. If you look at Renaissance paintings of Jesus, oftentimes Jesus will be in the upper right corner, his face like on the cross kind of thing. You'll see him in the upper because it's like an exalted position. Over here, it's kind of an uncomfortable place. Like it's like, oh, wait, we're at the start, we're at the beginning. We don't know what the finish is. And we're up here not grounded versus down here, we're grounded, right? So you can use composition to help you in your images. Now on this one, what you'll notice is I have her in the upper right, okay? If I flip her, oh,
it is totally different.
it totally changes the image. It makes you go, you're even more uncomfortable. You're very uncomfortable with her over here. Like it really makes you
It's too
go,
much in that
it's
corner.
too much. Yes. And my point with this image was it's uncomfortable, but you're living with it. Postpartum depression is incredibly uncomfortable, but you have to live with it. So it has to be part of who you are. It's like, it's a grounded, heavy feeling, right? But yet I have her on the ceiling. So putting her over here on this side wouldn't have conveyed that image, that sense of meaning quite as much. Now, like I said, this is super subjective. It also stops your eye. Because we read from left to right, I have this motion of her L-shaped here, stopping. Your eye won't go further than her. You're always attracted to her. You're always drawn to her, the lines, because of the way we read from left to right. If I go and flip the image, now all of a sudden, you can't stay with her. Do you see what I'm saying? You want to move over here. And yet it's very confusing. Now, for some meanings and some images, that's what you want. So if you study composition and how different PowerPoints create meaning, you can have incredible subconscious impact on the judges simply by where you place things in the frame. And so that's where I'm talking about learning to train your eye to see is incredibly powerful, because then all of a sudden you're going to start shooting in camera. And that's why I started shooting in camera with my babies on the lower right. I want them in that comfy, soft, innocent place. Whereas one time I did an image, one of my very first competition images, I did a bench with a little girl sitting on the bench holding a doll. And she was on the left side of the frame and the whole right side was very uncomfortable. And I called it foster child because her future was very uncertain. Like we didn't know what was going to happen on the right side. Like the ending was not known. And so by putting her on the left side of the frame, it created that tension in the image for us to go, oh God, this child's future is very uncertain. Do you see what I'm saying? If I had put her on the right, it would have been too comfortable, if that makes sense. So use that to your advantage when trying to tell a story. That was a long explanation for composition.
Yes. I would be interested to see how that applies to different languages that maybe don't read from left to right. And if they're photographers and right, and their artists compose in a different way, that would be a very interesting thing to look into.
Yes. And again, it's all inferred by the viewer.
Yes.
If someone from Asia who reads from right to left viewed my images, they might think completely differently. But a judge sitting next to her who reads from left to right. And so that's why we have multiple judges on a panel.
Yes.
Because everybody infers their experience in a different way. And it creates a richness to the panel to evaluate the image. And it creates a fairness to the maker to get the best feedback possible from a variety of opinions in order to come to the average conclusion.
Exactly. Wonderful. I think that was the most in-depth answer to
Sorry.
what is composition that we could have asked for. No, thank you. Thank you. Now let's look at one of your earlier images.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
okay.
a fun one. We're gonna look.
This
So
is,
for
oh
everybody
yeah.
joining now, we're gonna look at one of Julia's earlier images, and she's going to critique it and share where she was then and what
Oh,
where
this is
how did
just
she
a
get to where she is now,
hot mess.
from where she started. And
This
hi.
is work from 2008, I think. This is when I started my business in early 2007. And this was me doing my first newborns in 2008, I think. So 13 years ago. Yeah.
I recognize this
About that.
blanket. I feel like it's an IKEA one.
It is the total IKEA white bumpy blanket. Like that was so popular and trendy back then.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Oh, I'm
just
going to
kind
say
of
hi to Lily Norris and Priscilla, who are watching. And they
yeah,
say,
hi
hello, pretty
Lily.
ladies. Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
Lily says she
so
met you in 2018 as a speaker.
oh nice. Hi
Yes.
Lily. Okay, so which one do
Okay.
we want to critique? You pick
Oh,
it.
oh my. Well,
This one's pretty bad. Okay, let's do this one.
let's do this one.
If I saw this in competition, it would probably score in the upper 60s. This is a bad image. And there's several reasons why. First of all, the posing is the feet are the closest thing to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So the feet look as large as the head pretty much. And you all know that little babies' feet are tiny. Secondly, the lighting is up the baby's nose and very flat on the subject. So all I'm doing is looking up that baby's nostrils, right? Secondly, I can't see the baby's face. The nose is cutting across that left eye. There's skin tone problems beyond recognition in this thing. The baby's feet, arms, hands are all magenta colored, and like it's a myriad rainbow of colors here. And literally, the baby needs to like flip positions and come towards me so that the head is the closest thing to the image. So yeah, this is a pretty terrible. Obviously, no thought was taken with the hand posing, the feet posing, the camera angle, the lighting angle, posing angle. Everything's off. The color balance is off. The image is really like cool in some spots and warm in others. So there's a lot of issues.
what would you at the time? What was in your mind? What do you feel went well with this? Because I'm sure at the
The baby
time,
was asleep.
yeah.
I was so happy that the baby was asleep.
Well, he or she looks comfortable. I'm sure the parents.
Well, and
like
and
this.
you know, I had no idea how to wrap a baby at that point. So you can see all my baby images are like
Aw.
naked babies. But even here, sorry, they're doing construction next door. I don't know if you can hear the pounding, but same thing here. You got all kinds of color irregularities going on the skin tone. You can't even see the other side of the baby's face. The posing is terrible. The lighting is at least directional. You know, we've got a butterfly pattern going on. The background is distracting. There's blown highlights. I mean, yeah, there's especially this one. Good grief. Look at the burnt highlights and the shift, the color, the aberration shift in the blanket. All kinds of things going on wrong here. Yeah.
Well, you've come a long way.
A long way.
Priscilla says there is hope.
Well, and you know, that's why I'm so blatantly honest about showing this kind of stuff, because we all started somewhere. And look at
Exactly.
what a horrible background choice. I chose a low key dark background with a white fluffy fur. What was I thinking? Like the contrast is just too much for your eye. Again, I'm shooting up the baby's nose. The light is completely flat. The feet are closer to me than the head. The baby's like, you know, you should never shoot anybody up their nose, a baby included. Yes. So this is early work of mine. Let's see, when was it actually shot? It was shot on 11/24/07.
Over a decade ago.
Over a decade ago. And this was, so I had started my business January 16th of 2007. Like I got my business license.
Oh, so this is right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. So very, very early on.
And
Yeah.
look where you are now. An
But then,
inspiration.
like, I keep all my competition work. So, you can look at competition images over the years and how they have changed. Um, and that I've, learned a lot just by
Mm-hmm.
simply, but you can see on this one, the story. Can you see the story?
This is beautiful. I just noticed the dog on the left.
Mm-hmm. And it says Agence d'Adoption,
Yes.
an orphanage for
Oh my
children
goodness.
is what that means.
And the little girl is holding her, who I
Yes,
assume
and
is her
you can
sister.
see the mother
Mm-hmm.
here and the lady on the phone and the dog. I mean, the dog is
Yeah.
symbolic and representative, but this was all, oh, excuse me, sorry. This was all built from these images
Incredible.
down below. Painting of a baby. So the work changes as you learn, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when things work and are successful, and there's times when they don't. And like this image, I was in love with, and it didn't do that well. So just this is my son. This is a take on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
and
Amazing.
again, built from scratch. This wardrobe, I had to open the doors of it and reverse them. So all of
Ah,
this was built by hand. And then, of course, sitting my child down and all these different pieces put in. But these are were his favorite toys at that age, placing them in the frame for composition. But you can see the composition is very
it
purposeful
leads
here.
you in.
Your
Mm-hmm.
eyes let in to what's going on, and you want to go down that. You want to go into the wardrobe with him.
It's Mr. Tumnus's cottage.
Yes, right? So let's see here. I don't know if you guys want to keep looking at this or not, but
I'm
competition.
just looking as you're scrolling through your computer, and I'm amazed at how organized and quickly you can find things. I mean, you could do a whole course on how to do that,
Trust me,
organizing your files.
I'm not as organized as you would think. But then I have images that have never seen the light of day. So like I was inspired by one of Degas' ballerina prints. So I photographed my assistant. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started to paint her
Oh,
with the
wow.
Degas as inspiration. And it just wasn't working. And I set it aside and let it go because that was as far as I got with it because it wasn't going where I wanted it. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of my work that will never see the light of day because I just didn't have it in me. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, this is my son with his little lovey again. This was a model that I shot and added the birds in, the hummingbirds. Hummingbirds,
Wow.
this was a Native American Indian boy. And in that culture, hummingbirds are considered a sign of hope and miracle. So I painted hummingbirds coming out of him.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is a client's image. So yeah, and then oh god, I'm trying to think here. What else? 2018.
This is incredible growth
Yeah.
from the images that we saw from
And
2007.
let me tell you, I would have never been there if it wasn't for competition. And then I haven't actually competed in a couple years. I need to go back and start again, but this was one of my favorites. It's a little dark on the screen here, but this is my assistant Beth's daughter. It's called Imagination Interrupted because she's reading a book and all the critters are coming out.
Oh, my.
And this was, again, all shot in camera. This was a very controversial image, clearly. My son.
He's getting older.
Yes, he is, isn't he? A client who I brought in for a conceptual shoot, again, all in camera. And this was the last shot in the raw.
Wow.
Let me see if I still have the raws somewhere. Where is it? Savannah. So I originally was going to shoot this, I tested it. So I wanted to see how everything would look on the table. So I tested it.
Mhm.
I made the dress and put it on a model to test it just to see how everything would work. And again, the lines, I was looking for the leading lines. So I put the yarn in place to try to create that concept. I was originally going to extend the table and make it a long horizontal image. And so that's why I kind of shot it like this. And you can see I mean, she was sweet. And
Oh my
originally I was going
goodness.
to have her like she got into grandma's knitting, and you'll see the spider hanging there and
Yes.
everything. And then at the very end of the session, where was it? Let me look under selects. No, where is it? This one, where is it? This one, is it this one here? One of the last images. She was about to, we were done shooting, and she was about to cut the string, and I went, Savannah. And she looked over at me and bam, got the shot. It's literally one of the last frames. She did that, and then she did that. Like,
Wow.
and this is the final image. So it was all done in camera. I ended up removing the spider for certain competitions, and then lighting the adding lights to the I didn't want
Chandelier.
to put flames on her, when actually shooting. I was worried about her. So I could do it like this for PPA, but for WPPI, I had to do it with the spider and without the lit candles, because you can't change it in frame. So, and it got third place, I think, at WPPI for children. So, like I said, you're gonna grow. Things change so much as you shoot more and more and more and more and more. And as you watch competition, like one of the best things you can do is like go to printcompetition.com and watch the archives, all the audio, and listen to what the judges are saying, because that right there will teach you how to see 10 times better than anything. So
Wow. Well, we all look forward to watching you judge during the spring competition for APNPI. Clearly, there is a lot to learn and you have a lot to share. And I think that brings us to the end. We don't want you to continue sharing, because you have all these educational offerings that people can find. I know you do mentoring, and your business mastermind, I'm sure, is also incredible. Do you want to share a little bit about that and what you're offering
sure.
right
Thank
now?
you. Thank you for asking and for saying all that. I love to teach. I love to pass on what I know. A lot of people, I wouldn't be where I am today without the people who taught me and helped me along the path. So, a lot of it's just paying it forward. You can go to my Instagram account at Julia Kelleher. And in my link tree, if you hit on my link, there's all kinds of free resources, free classes. I typically specialize in business education. And then, of course, our mastermind is a monthly membership program. Right now, it's $39 a month. It's going up to $49 here pretty soon. So, but if you click, there's a 48-hour window to kind of backdoor join. If you'd like to join us, we have over 300 just lovely people who are killing it in their businesses and growing. And that's what I love the most, is to help people do this creativity and make a living from it, a viable one. I know tons of my students have, and I think it's very possible to do that. And I was told my entire youth, oh, you can't make a living as an artist, major in science, go into business. And I'm like, you know what? It's not true. You can take your creative voice and make a very viable living from it. I'm living proof of that. And there's a lot of my students who are living proof of it. And you don't have to have crazy, over the top, amazing work. You just have to produce solid professional artwork, and there is a market for you. And I truly believe that. So yeah, you can go there, or you can go to 5ccollective.com too, is another great place to find out more about the mastermind.
Yes, I think you've probably inspired many people to go check it out, because I'm sure you know this, but you're very inspiring, and
Thank you.
it just, when you speak, it just draws people in. And
Thank you.
yeah, this
Oh
was
my God, you
wonderful. It
just
was
made my whole
so
weekend.
nice.
Well, it
for
probably comes from years of being in television news. I was on TV for
yes.
years in live broadcasting. So that's probably where that comes from.
Well, before we started this is to the membership watching. I was telling Julia how I first discovered her in Creative Live when she was doing her live workshops in the early 2010,
Yes,
13, 20
2012, 13
around
area.
then, and she's still going strong. So this woman has
Yeah,
so much to give.
very
Yeah.
much so. And, my sister inspired me to start this career, and she's still going at it. She's almost at 20 years and still doing newborns. It's like I said, there is longevity to it, and there's nothing more empowering, especially as a woman, to be able to make your own living independently. Regardless if you have, a second income or not, but being able to do that and have that independence and do it with what makes us all tick, creativity, is so freaking cool. And there's nothing more joyful. It is my purpose in life, is to help women do that. And yeah, so I'll just keep trudging along here.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you
And
so much. I'm looking forward to it
yes,
too.
and
I can't wait to see all the
we'll sign
beautiful
off for
images.
now.
Sounds good.
Okay, so
Thanks
I'm going to
everyone for
stop
watching.
recording.